Hello, and welcome back to the Quiet Room. Let the weight of today fall away from your shoulders. Let your breath find its own rhythm, naturally, without any effort. Outside, the world is still turning. Somewhere, people are rushing. Somewhere, phones are ringing. But here, in this moment, there is only stillness and a story waiting to be remembered. Tonight, we are traveling back to a time that feels like a dream now. Back to the turn of the millennium, when pop music felt enormous, when a single love story could captivate the world, and when two young people found each other in the brightest, most public spotlight imaginable. This is not a fairy tale. It is something more real than that. It is a story about first love, about the cost of fame, about narratives that are constructed around us, and about two people trying to build something genuine in an environment that was fundamentally artificial. So let your eyes close, let your body settle into comfort, and let us begin at the very beginning, in a place called Florida, where dreams were manufactured, and where two children first learned what it meant to be watched. There is a specific kind of magic that happens when you realize the world is watching you. Not the world in an abstract way, but real people. People behind cameras, people taking notes, people deciding whether you have what it takes. In the early 1990s, in Orlando, Florida, on a Disney soundstage, this magic was very real for a group of children. The show was called the all-new Mickey Mouse Club. On the surface, it was a simple children's variety show. But for the children performing in it, it was something entirely different. It was a greenhouse, a controlled environment where young talent was cultivated, shaped, and prepared for a world that most of them didn't yet understand. The hours were long. Dance rehearsals where they would run the same choreography 30, 40 times in a single day, until every movement looked effortless. Singing lessons, acting classes, and somehow, in the margins of all this, school. It was, in many ways, a boot camp for the entertainment industry. And in this greenhouse, in the years 1992 through 95, two children met who would later become the symbol of an era. There was Justin Randall Timberlake, born in Memphis, Tennessee. By the time he arrived at the Mickey Mouse Club, he was already a seasoned performer. He was confident, charming, with an innate sense of rhythm that seemed to come from his bones. And there was Britney Jean Spears, raised in a small town in Louisiana. From the very beginning, she had an intensity about her, a hunger, a need to perform that went beyond what most children her age experienced. At age 8, she had auditioned and been told she was too young. So she went home, she trained, she grew. And when she returned at age 11, she was ready. And this is where our story truly begins. Because in that studio, Justin and Britney were no longer just children from small towns. They were stepping into a world that would shape everything that came after. They learned to perform. They learned how to smile on cue. They learned, essentially, how to be watched. But they also learned something else. They learned that they were not alone. All of these children were strange in their own way. They all wanted something more. And in that shared hunger, friendships formed. Real friendships. Britney and Justin formed a connection. Later, in interviews, Justin would say, "I was in love with her from the start. I was infatuated with her from the moment I saw her." He was 12. She was 11. There is a story that both of them have referenced over the years. It was at a sleepover, a group of young performers away from their families. They played a game, Truth or Dare, and on one of those dares, Justin was dared to kiss Britney. Years later, Britney would remember the song that was playing. It was a Janet Jackson song. Of all the details, the room, the nervousness, what stayed with her was the music, and the kiss happening, soft and quick and transformative in the way that first kisses can be when you are so young. It was a moment that lasted only seconds, but it was a moment that would echo through their lives for more than 2 decades. But then, the greenhouse closed. The show ended. The children were scattered back to their hometowns. Britney returned to Louisiana. Justin returned to Tennessee. And for a time, they lived separate lives, separate paths, different dreams being pursued in different cities. But the connection had been made. The seed had been planted. And in a way that only fate understands, their paths would cross again. Between childhood and fame, there is a threshold, a moment where you step from one world into another, and everything changes forever. For Britney Spears, that threshold came in 1998. After the Mickey Mouse Club, she didn't give up. She was rejected by record labels 3 times. They didn't see the potential. Then Jive Records believed. And in September 1998, they released a single. The song was called Baby One More Time. When that song hit the radio, everything changed. It became inescapable. The music video became a cultural moment. Britney, dancing in a schoolgirl outfit with a confidence that was shocking. She went from a girl that no one believed in to a girl that everyone was watching. She became a global superstar almost overnight, at 17 years old. Meanwhile, Justin was also rising. In 1996, he joined a group called NSYNC. They became one of the biggest boy bands in the world. They were on the cover of magazines. They were selling out stadiums. So by early 1999, both Britney and Justin were at the absolute peak of fame. They were young, they were talented, they were everywhere. And then, Britney joined NSYNC as the opening act for their tour. She was traveling on the same tour buses, staying in the same hotels. And she was reunited with someone she hadn't seen since childhood. Justin Timberlake was no longer the boy from the Mickey Mouse Club. He was now a teen idol. But when he saw Britney, something sparked. They began to see each other, to talk, to connect in the way that only 2 people who have known each other since childhood can connect. They had a shared history. They had both lived this strange life, but they kept it secret. In April 1999, Britney denied the rumors in Rolling Stone magazine. She said they were just friends, but privately, something was growing. Then, at the MTV Video Music Awards in 2000, they made it public. They sat together. They were photographed together. The world saw them together for the first time. And the world fell in love with them. Not just as individuals, but as a symbol. 2 former child performers reunited, finding love in the center of the pop universe. They became the it couple. In the months that followed, they were everywhere. At the Super Bowl halftime show, Britney said in an interview, "It's a little hard, but you know what? It's all about trust. He loves me, and I love him, and we just try to work it out." She was 19. They lived together. They were photographed constantly. They became the visual representation of the era. And then came the moment that would define them forever. On January 8th, 2001, at the American Music Awards, Britney and Justin arrived wearing matching denim outfits, head to toe, his and hers. It was bold. It was unusual. It was completely unforgettable. Looking back now, it is interesting to think about what that moment meant. It wasn't just fashion. It was a statement. It was saying, we are together. We are a unit. We are not afraid to show the world that we belong to each other. By early 2001, they were inseparable. They sat courtside at basketball games. They appeared at major events. In an interview with The Guardian, Britney revealed something vulnerable. She talked about living together. She said, "I'm not ashamed at all to say that I love him from the bottom of my heart. As far as love is concerned, with him, too much is not enough." At a charity basketball event, they wore matching jerseys with their nicknames on the back. For Britney, The nickname was Pinky. They were revealing their private language, the pet names, the intimacy. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually have it all. The fame, the success, the love. The idea that you could have everything all at once. That you could be watched by millions and still have something private, something real. But symbols, by their nature, are fragile. And in the spring of 2002, something began to shift. Relationships end for many reasons. Sometimes they end with a bang, but more often they end quietly. They end with distance, with two people growing in different directions. For Britney and Justin, the end came in 2002. We don't know exactly what happened in the private conversations, but we know some things. We know them because, decades later, Britney would tell the world. By early 2002, the pressures were mounting. Britney was filming her first movie, Crossroads. Her schedule was impossibly full. Justin was having conversations about going solo, about breaking away from NSYNC. They were climbing different mountains, and the distance between those mountains was growing. In March 2002, Britney gave an interview. When asked about Justin, she said, "I'm not in an intense relationship with anyone at the moment." It was a careful phrasing, but within days it became clear. They had broken up. The details of the breakup were devastating in ways the public didn't know. Years later, in her memoir, The Woman in Me, Britney would reveal something that had been kept private for 2 decades. She had become pregnant. She was carrying his child. But Justin, according to her account, was not ready to be a father. He said they were too young. He said they should wait. And Britney, at 19 years old, made a choice that she has described as the most painful decision of her life. She writes in her memoir, "I love Justin so much. I always expected us to have a family together one day. This would just be much earlier than I'd anticipated." She writes about the physical and emotional devastation, about lying on the bathroom floor sobbing, and she writes that Justin was there, that he held her, that at some point he got his guitar and played music while she cried. It is an image that is almost unbearable in its intimacy. 2 young people, in pain, trying to comfort each other. The breakup itself, when it came, was swift. According to accounts, Justin ended the relationship via text message while Britney was on the set of a music video. She saw the message, and then she had to go back out and perform. She had to dance. Later, Justin flew to Louisiana to visit her. He brought a letter he had written and framed. Britney still has that letter under her bed. It talked about their love. And at the end it said, "I can't breathe without you." But the letter didn't bring closure, because closure wasn't possible. And then came the song. In November 2002, Justin released his first solo album, Justified, and on that album was a song called Cry Me a River. There is something that happens when a powerful narrative is created. It takes on a life of its own. Cry Me a River was a brilliant song, but it was also a narrative. The lyrics told a story of heartbreak and betrayal. They suggested that someone had been unfaithful, and the music video made it unmistakable. It featured a woman who looked remarkably like Britney, portraying her as the villain. The song was a massive hit. It launched Justin's solo career, and it cemented a narrative. Justin was the wronged party. Britney was the one who had hurt him. In interviews, Justin didn't deny it. He talked about his broken heart. He talked about how he fought back with his music. And so the narrative became fixed in the culture. In the years that followed, Britney faced intense scrutiny. She was questioned about her morality. She was painted in unflattering ways. And for her part, she mostly stayed quiet. She didn't release a counter-narrative. She moved forward. She released a song called Every Time in 2003. It was a quiet ballad, a lament. The lyrics were, "I may have made it rain. Please forgive me. My weakness caused you pain." While Justin's song was an accusation, Britney's was an apology. It would take 20 years for the full story to emerge. In her memoir, Britney revealed that she had not been the unfaithful one. Justin had cheated multiple times. She had been loyal to him, with one exception that she told him about, and they worked through. She writes about Cry Me a River with bitterness. She writes, "The thought of my betraying him gave his album more angst, gave it a purpose. Everyone felt very sorry for him, and it shamed me." In that moment, decades later, the full weight of what had happened became visible. Not just the breakup, but the way a story had been told that benefited one person and hurt another. Years later, the culture began to change. In 2021, a documentary called Framing Britney Spears told a different story. It highlighted the media misogyny and the unfair treatment of young women. After the documentary, Justin posted an apology. He wrote, "I've seen the pain that I've caused. I recognize my role in this. I benefited from a system that was unfair to her, and I'm sorry." So, 20 years after the fact, there was an acknowledgement that the story had been more complicated all along. But apologies don't undo the past. They don't erase the hurt. What they do is add context. They add a layer of nuance to a story that had been told too simply. What we are left with is a story about two young people who loved each other, who were shaped by the circumstances around them, who made choices, who were hurt. It is not a fairy tale. It is a human story. Complicated, painful, real. It is a story about the cost of fame, about growing up in front of millions of people, and about two people who were trying to build something real in an environment that was fundamentally unreal. And now, as we come to the end of this story, I want you to let it all go. Let the denim outfits fade away. Let the photographs blur. Let the narrative, with all its complications and pain, dissolve into the darkness. What remains is simply this. Two people loved each other once. They were young. They tried their best. And then they had to let go. It is a story that belongs to them. But it also belongs to all of us. Because all of us have loved. All of us have had to figure out how to move forward when the world told us one thing and our experience told us another. So you don't have to analyze this story anymore. You don't have to figure out who was right. You can simply let it be what it is. A memory. A moment in time. Your body is becoming heavy now. Your mind is slowing. The concerns of the day are drifting away. There is nothing left to figure out. Nothing left to understand. Nothing left to hold on to. Just the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. Just the darkness, soft and welcoming. You are safe here. You are held. You are at peace. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. Sleep well. Let the story fade. Let your mind go quiet. Let yourself drift. Sleep.